Larry Woods, and the issue is TennCare and the law. And of course, Dr. Woods, before we had our first commercial break, we promised that we'd give you an opportunity to talk about TennCare. And I think the very name TennCare means that it seems to be something that is peculiar to the state of Tennessee. And let's talk about the conception of TennCare and how all of that came into being.
TennCare is Tennessee's unique version of Medicaid. And it all started about 15 years ago under Governor Ned McWhorter. Governor McWhorter proposed and created and got authorization and permission from Medicaid in Washington to shape and mold our own Medicaid program in Tennessee and change how it operates. And what that meant was more people became eligible in Tennessee for health care coverage and health care protection than would have been eligible under Medicaid. We opened up the enrollment of Medicaid and said, we're going to take more people who are, so-called uninsurable. We're going to take more people who maybe make more money than just being poor. Lots of middle-class working people are poor by the time, their paycheck's spent at the end of the week. And we'll redefine the eligibility under TennCare and broaden the Medicaid program, take more people in, cover more children, cover more middle class, cover more uninsurable. And that was the original idea in TennCare. So it was really a twin focus by Governor McWhorter in Tennessee in the early days 15 years ago. Number one, we'll expand health care coverage. That's good for everybody.
Good.
And number two, by leaving Medicaid and starting our own TennCare program, we get more money from Washington. We get more federal dollars. This is a matching program, Medicaid is, and TennCare is, where the federal government puts up a certain percentage of the money, the state puts up a percentage, and under Medicaid, the majority of the money comes from the federal government. Under TennCare, we get even more federal dollars. So that's one of the terribly important financial reasons that we want to preserve TennCare. If we have to drop TennCare and go back to Medicaid, we're going to lose federal dollars. We're going to cut the revenue flow. Obviously, we all want to avoid doing that if we can. So 15 years or so ago, we started this TennCare program, and for the first couple of years, it looked like it was going well, but then the problems started. And some of these problems we can control, some we can't, but the problems over the last decade have been, number one, medical cost inflation has risen very, very sharply. And that's a national and international problem, not a Tennessee problem. The cost of hospital care, the cost of medical treatment, the cost of prescription drugs has just risen very sharply, far faster than general inflation in the economy, and that puts a terrific financial strain on a government insurance program like TennCare. Second, the managed care organizations, these medical groups that were formed and came in to manage the TennCare program for our citizens and to take advantage of the TennCare programs, did not perform as we expected them to, just were not as effective as we expected them to be, and they lobbied and got the law, or the administration of the law, changed in the late 1990s so that they were no longer financially at risk. In other words, their incentive to save costs disappeared, or at least went down dramatically because they were no longer financially at risk. So between medical cost inflation and the MCOs not being at risk, the financial cost of TennCare got out of control. And the final factor that really financially crippled us on TennCare was that the Sundquist administration, I think they tried their best, but when they went to Washington, to the agency in charge called CMS, to renegotiate what the federal matching dollars are going to be, they did it wrong. They just got the formula wrong. They wound up leaving literally hundreds of millions of dollars on the table in Washington that we could have had. And again, I'm not trying to blame anybody. I think they were trying their best. They just didn't get it quite right. As a result of those triple factors, medical cost inflation, the MCOs not being at risk, the mistakes on the formula in Washington, by the time we get to Governor Bredesen coming into office 2 years ago, we're really facing a crisis in the financing for TennCare. For next year, there's going to be a $500 billion hole in TennCare, and I'm sorry, a $500 million hole in TennCare that we don't have the funds to make up. So
now this is the deficit in TennCare that
yes.
we'll face next year, you're saying?
Yes, that's right. We're already in deficit, but the deficit's getting higher, faster and faster. It's sort of like interest on top of interest. The longer we delay, the longer we have to wait, the faster that deficit's building. And it's gotten to the point where financing TennCare now threatens our capability to finance education in the state, to finance safety and security and police work, to finance the highway system, et cetera. It's going to swallow up the entire budget if we don't get it under control. So the current problem, the current disagreement in TennCare between the TennCare advocates and Governor Bredesen is how do we make up this financial shortfall? Everybody wants to keep as many people as we can on TennCare. Everybody wants universal health care coverage if we can do it. And frankly, everybody agrees that the present TennCare program is not sustainable. It cannot continue. It cannot exist.
There's no doubt about that. I mean,
no doubt about it.
There's nobody trying to pressure anybody into doing anything. The very fact is that we just don't have, it can't work this way.
Yeah, we just don't have the money, even with the federal matching dollars. Both sides, every side in the TennCare disagreement agrees the program is not sustainable. That's just unfortunate, but we live in an economy and in a state where we don't have enough revenue coming in to make up the missing federal dollars that we don't have enough of for this particular program. So that presents us with the crux of the problem. What do we do to make up that deficit? And, you know, the choices are twofold, really. We either cut some services, cut some coverage, or we find some new revenue. And we can find the new revenue through new taxes, which is not a realistic option in Tennessee, or we find the new revenue through scaling back the number of people covered, or scaling back the kind of drugs we're using, or scaling back some of the other coverage and services and benefits provided, or by dropping TennCare and going back to Medicaid. I mean, those are essentially the choices, the range of choices that we're facing.
Okay, over the last 20 seconds before the second commercial break here, Dr. Woods, do you believe that there's any way that we might be able to work our way out of the TennCare mess, quote unquote, that we find ourselves in now? And I say that because I'm going to allow you to deal with that over the last segment of this particular show, and we'll be back with our audience following this very, very short commercial break. It's TennCare and the law.